I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. We are changing the world, our communities, our families, one woman at a time. And when we are together, we are a powerful collective. It is extraordinary and it is expansive because this is the time of women emerging on the planet. And so I get to introduce you to extraordinary women that have inspired me. They're change makers. And so today my guest is Marta Spirk. She's a writer, she's a podcaster, she's an empowerment coach. She helps women entrepreneurs move past perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and comparison and into visibility, credibility, oh yes, and profit. She does this with her 5-step process called Engage to Serve. Her podcast, The Empowered Woman, over 70,000 downloads. The Empowered Woman School membership and workshops. And after building a career of 20 years as a teacher, a translator, and an interpreter, Marta has triplets. We're going to talk about that. And she had them in 2016. And she found a passion for empowering women, and she learned to empower herself. So in the last 4 years, she's helped thousands of women start believing in themselves, giving them permission to succeed, let their voices be heard, and make an impact in the world and in their family by following their entrepreneurial hearts. Oh, Marta, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because I want to tell us a little bit about your background, and then I want to get to the triplets. Because I'm sure you weren't born and said, well, I'm just going to be this fabulous person who empowers women around the world. There must have been something that happened before this.
Oh, yes, definitely. So as you read my bio there, my background has really been around languages and around encouraging being in front of people as a teacher and also as an interpreter. So born and raised in Brazil. At 14, I started teaching English, tutoring. So started, being an entrepreneur back then, going to people's houses, getting people to come to my house and teach. And right at the same time, my mom, being a pastor, started getting in touch with American ministries and ministers that started coming to our church in Brazil. And soon enough, I was kind of put in the mix, enough, start translating, start interpreting. And it was, my career was already in front of me even before I actually had to pick a major or anything like that. And so I went on to be a translator, to become a translator, an interpreter. I still work as an interpreter for Colorado courts, where I live now in Denver. And so that was really my focus, was helping people with the language barrier, and helping somebody else's message come across, to people and facilitate that transition. And it wasn't until I had the triplets that it was more of my message and speaking my own message instead of just conveying somebody else's.
So I love that. And I love that the universe kind of said, Marta, this is how I'm going to guide you. Mm-hmm. But I'm assuming that triplets was a surprise.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It was not something I was expecting. And now I openly say it was not something that I wanted. And it was that shock, the shock of mom guilt, and especially with having to deal with something that I didn't ask for, that I didn't expect, that I wanted to have kids, but not in this way. And then I came to learn, especially with motherhood, that that's what life is all about, is things that you didn't ask for, things that you weren't expecting, things that you weren't prepared for, and learning on the spot and making do with what you have and finding gratitude with what you have, but also being very honest with yourself about how you feel instead of suppressing it out of fear of what people are going to think. So a lot of what I do now is being honest, being open, so that I can process those feelings and guide women to do the same themselves.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, and I really want to talk about the unexpected, because a lot of times, the unexpected drops in and we are not clear that it's a universal guidance, that it's the universe is saying, I'm going to give you this thing, and you're going to learn how to manage it. But it's also a portal that's opening for your next iteration,
Yes.
So I want to know, what did you have to learn to start to manage the motherhood of three children, being an interpreter, and building this new business? How did you juggle all that? Because we're not always so great at doing that.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think the biggest lesson in this whole process was getting to know myself and understanding that I had this need to be recognized, to um, overachieve, to do all of the things and excel at them. And then becoming a triplet mom, now I see, and it wasn't something that happened right away because there was no way for me to process and understand what I understand now 5 years later, is that it really broke me. It made me feel helpless. And for the first time in my life, it was something that I could not succeed in my eyes, that I could not excel at like everything else I'd ever done in my life. It was all like Marta's a star. Marta does all the amazing things. And granted, with me being a triplet mom, this praise and this admiration comes naturally because people are like, wow, you are still alive, even though you're taking care of three kids, But to me, it also meant now I have to share the spotlight. Now it's not just me handling this one baby, it's me putting my life down in so many ways because there was no other option. There's only 24 hours in the day. And it was a very humbling experience for me to realize there's only so much I can do. There's only so much of me to pass around. And I didn't feel like the superwoman or the super human that I had felt for so long in my life, excelling at everything, being an A+ student, being the A+ daughter, doing all of the things, And then this happened, and now I see that it really broke me and got me spinning. Like, what am I going to do with my life now that I'm not the center of attention and I can't do all of the things because I'm stuck, quote unquote, taking care of three babies at the same time.
Well, I totally get that. Well, and I'll just say for myself, some of the greatest moments in my life have been breakdowns that led me to the breakthrough.
Yeah.
And so, because here's the thing, when you're in that breakdown, you either get taken out or you find a way to reinvent, to recreate. And so, and by the way, any identity that we have in ourselves, and you said A+ student, A+, family member, whatever identity we have, the universe goes, well, that's really nice, but that's not it.
Yes.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. And that it's almost like it got taken away from me, but it was really the opportunity or what I actually needed to see that and to really humble myself in so many ways. And starting a business was my way of finding some sort of control and understanding that the only thing I can control at the end of the day is myself. So I could either just be jaded, this is not what I asked for, I am so overwhelmed, I'm so tired all the time, or I could take the other way of saying, I'm doing the best with what I have. I am enough, obviously, to take care of these kids, and I can do this, and I can do anything else that I want if I so choose to, and empowering other women to do the same. And also creating this vulnerability to tell people about these feelings, and then seeing that so many women feel like that, even with just one baby. They feel like, life is over. It's supposed to be the new beginning, but now it's like my life is over. It's a very tricky concept.
Well, yeah, because all of a sudden what you identified as freedom doesn't look that way anymore because you are responsible for these other beings.
Yes.
And to take care of yourself at the same time. So I totally get that. So you're working with women and empowering them, and I love this, asking them to follow their entrepreneurial hearts. And I do a lot of work with women entrepreneurs. So what do you think the biggest challenge is for women who want to step into their power, step into their future and their next level?
Yeah. And for me, it goes back to that spotlight. And I talk a lot about this because I know this is one of the things that I have struggled as a person and also always craved. And some people don't focus on that so much. And I've used the Enneagram a lot in my work, and I love understanding the personality types. But ultimately, all human beings are looking for validation, are looking for belonging, are looking to be accepted, right? And for women, this is a big thing. This is a big thing because we are the caretakers. So we're naturally nurturing, and it almost automatically makes us fall into that people pleasing. Let me make sure I'm doing a good job. Please tell me I'm doing a good job. Please show me I'm doing. Write it on a board, write it on a sign. Like, this is what we live for. And for women entrepreneurs, we carry that with us in our business. And so we worry that we're not being loved, that we're ruffling feathers. And these are things that, for the most part, without stereotyping, but just tendencies, men don't struggle with as much. I am who I am. I'll do what I do. Don't like it, that's your problem. Here's the door, And for women, this is a little bit harder. And then in starting a business, even though you are starting a business to serve others, it almost ends up being more of, how can I validate myself through this? How can I be more loved with what I do, as opposed to, how can I be of service? How can I actually do something that's going to help somebody else? And it's something that most people don't even realize, and that I did not realize until recently, with starting my business, understanding that was something that I needed. And even though I had the best intentions at heart, the real motive behind it was still seeking that spotlight that I felt like I'd lost with my kids. And in many ways, I see that that's how many women lead their business with, and they end up very frustrated, because it's that fix that never ends. And especially with social media, which most entrepreneurs lean into to find clients and to gain exposure. It's this game of, how many likes can I get? How many followers can I get? And you lose the purpose in this moment, right? It's not about, what can I do to help you as an entrepreneur? It's about, what can I do to get more love? So we lose the focus, and it doesn't go further than that. It just creates more disappointment and frustration.
Totally. Well, I want to ask you too. Okay, so you know, I had this business, you have the triplets. How are you finding the balance of your own self-care and, oh, by the way, the nurturing of your relationship?
Mm-hmm. That is a tricky thing, because I have come to realize that the word balance can mean different things for different people. And even with helping women entrepreneurs that have this idea of what their business is supposed to look like, when they look at other entrepreneurs, I've learned to accept that what looks like balance to me may not look like balance to somebody else. And this has even been a struggle within my family, with me starting something, putting something else on my plate with having triplets, is that they had their own ideas of what it should look like. And they would be very vocal about that, in saying, you're neglecting them. You're not, paying close attention to them, or whatever it is, or to the family as a whole. And I think my biggest takeaway in this process is, I'm the one that determines what that looks like, while what the balance looks like, if I'm dedicating enough time to my kids, if I'm dedicating enough time to my business. And with me being, the overachiever that I am, it is tricky, but somebody that is not me cannot know possibly what I want out of the whole thing, right? And in my relationship with my husband, and my relationship with my kids, and oftentimes this makes us feel so frustrated, because we're listening to these outside voices telling us what it's supposed to look like, instead of asking ourselves what we want it to look like, right? And so for me, it has been a process of being very honest with myself, and also staying open to communication with my husband, seeing from his perspective, since we're both parents and together, raising the kids, and compromising in that way, and listening to him, but also making sure my voice is being heard. Because that's another issue with women that have businesses, is that they feel the antagonism of their partner, and they don't know how to assert themselves, but also compromise. And I think that's really the balance that we need to be looking at here. If you are in a relationship with someone that is not following the entrepreneurial route, is being ready to compromise a little, but also be more assertive. So I think for me, that's what that balance looks like, is having that communication with my husband.
Absolutely. It's a very interesting thing. I sometimes I substitute the word harmony for the word balance.
Yes, I love that.
Because it's trying to find that harmony in all of it, and still be true to yourself, still honor yourself, still, nurture yourself.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So, before I ask you my final question, I want you to tell our audience how to find you, because I'm sure they want to know more about you. I mean, you have an intriguing story. And so, how do people find you?
So my website is martaspirk.com, and you can find more information on my podcast and everything else on the website. But the name of the podcast is the Empowered Woman Podcast. And I'm also in all social media platforms. I have a free Facebook community called the Empowered Woman Community, where I connect with women that way as well.
Thank you so much. So, ladies, you can hear that there's a lot of wisdom here, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm sure that just connecting with her will be an incredible gift to you. So the last question I ask is the same question I ask every guest.
Okay.
What is the one thing you want women to know about awakening?
Well, I will tell you a quote that I have been living by the last few years that I actually found on Pinterest while looking for like pink stuff, because I use a lot of pink in my brands. I landed in this board that was room decor ideas for little girls. And there was this beautiful picture that said, "To my daughter, I will say, see your beauty without a compliment and without a mirror." And I have been carrying that with me, because back to what I said about the validation, we tend to seek this outside of ourselves. And ultimately, the only voice that you listen to the most and that you should be listening to the most is your own. So instead of seeking for that compliment to make your day, or to even look in the mirror to make your day, just close your eyes and reassure yourself that you are beautiful, that you are enough, that you are valuable.
Oh, I love that. I love that. See yourself without a compliment or a mirror. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Well, Marta, thank you so much for being here. I am so inspired by who you are and what you do and your passion, not only to the work that you do in the world, but to your family and most importantly to yourself. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
So, ladies, we put these podcasts out every week, and I invite you to come back and meet all the wonderful women that are just soaring in this world. And the most important thing I want to leave you with is, please remember that you're magnificent, that you're powerful, that you're dynamic, that you're a masterpiece in the making, that you're unique and there's no one that can do what you came here to do. Imagine if we all were standing in that place, we would change this planet into a place of love, healing, and expression. I will see you soon, and thanks so much for being here.